This video provides a summary of the procedure detailed in AASHTO T27, Sieve Analysis of Fine and Coarse Aggregate. Sieve analysis is used to determine the size distribution of aggregate particles. The size distribution of aggregate particles, also termed gradation, is critical to the packing characteristics of aggregate. When performing sieve analyses, the following safety precautions are required: safety glasses and closed-toe shoes. The following equipment, materials, and supplies are required for conducting sieve analysis: a sieve shaker, sieves, a scale, a brush, aggregate, and a pan. To determine gradation, aggregate is placed on top of a stack of sieves. Sieves include mesh openings. The openings in the sieve meshes are successively smaller, moving down the stack. The sieve shaker is agitated, which forces the aggregate sample through the stack of sieves. Particles larger than a given sieve opening will be trapped on the sieve, whereas smaller particles will pass through. This allows for determining the proportion of different size particles comprising the aggregate sample. The following summarizes the steps required to complete a sieve analysis. Obtain a sample of dry aggregate. Determine the mass of the aggregate sample using the scale. The required mass of aggregate for sieve analysis varies with the maximum aggregate size. Your TA will instruct you on what sample size to use in the CE 332 lab. Check the stack of sieves to ensure they are in the correct order, that is, decreasing size moving from top to bottom. Pour the aggregate sample onto the top sieve in the stack. Place the lid on top of the stack of sieves. Place the stack of sieves into the shaker. Start the shaker and set a timer for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, stop the sieve shaker. Remove the top sieve and inspect if there are aggregate particles retained. If not, move on to the next sieve until you reach the first that retains aggregate. Place the largest sieve to retain aggregate onto the scale. Record the mass. Remove aggregate particles retained on the sieve. Use the brush to dislodge any particles adhering to the sieve. Place an empty sieve onto the scale. Record the mass of the empty sieve. Repeat this process on each sieve to determine the individual masses of aggregate retained. The difference between the mass of the sieve with aggregate and that of the empty sieve provides the mass of aggregate retained on that sieve. Total the masses of aggregate retained on each sieve size and check the total against the original sample mass. Results are acceptable if they differ by no more than 0.3%. For each sieve size, calculate the percentage of total aggregate retained on each sieve by dividing the individual masses retained by the total sample mass. Use the individual percent retained values to calculate the cumulative percentage of aggregate retained on each sieve by summation. Finally, determine the percent of aggregate passing each sieve by taking 100 minus the cumulative percent retained.